So in short, JADCO dropped the ball, if I might use a sports term. And the consequence, I do admit, is great. You know, these athletes work very hard to in their discipline and their sport. And today is the day where I have to tell the nation that rather than support athletes in their particular discipline here, JADCO took a wrong decision, quite frankly.
It's been just under 24 hours since a penitent and apologetic Alexander Williams, the chairman of the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, made the frank admission on this program that the organization had transgressed in its handling of the doping control procedures, which caused World Athletics to refuse to ratify the under-20 women's 4x100 meters world record set by the Jamaican team in Kingston at the Carifta Games on April 17. It's one of those situations that's heartbreaking, tragic, infuriating, and ridiculous all at the same time. But it's unlikely to change, and now we must busy ourselves with working out how to avoid a repeat in the future. Alex Williams did promise that in his capacity as chairman, he will be taking the necessary steps to ensure this never happens again. But what are some of the things that will require changing to optimize efficiency at JADCO? And what of their policy of not testing an athlete twice in a 24-hour span at the same meet? Here's another excerpt from our interview with Alexander Williams on Wednesday.
I understand that there is in fact an internal JADCO directive, it's as highest I can put it, which says that if an athlete is tested in competition, you ought not to test that athlete within 24 hours thereafter.
We're joined by a prominent medical practitioner and former JADCO Doping Control Officer, Dr. Paul Wright. Dr. Paul, good afternoon. Welcome to this program.
Good to be on as usual.
Doc, were you Alex Williams, and with the facts as they are, would you be asking your executive director for her resignation?
There's no doubt that somebody has to take her as the executive director who is in charge of those testing during the Carifta games. But first, man, I've got to go and find other form of occupation. There's one thing about the respect with us by Mr. Williams. When he said it was JADCO's best practice not to do a drug test on athletes 2 consecutive days of competition. That is a suicide note. Whoever wrote that note has decided that he's no longer going to be in charge of drug testing. Drug testing guaranteed.
Doc, hold up. Doc, pull up. Just hold up a little bit. Your audio is letting you down through no fault of your own. Let us see if we can make the reconnection and get you back on. That's Dr. Paul Wright. We're going to try to call him back to establish a good connection. But this story has been the top of the pile of news stories in Jamaica for the last 24 hours. It's no laughing matter. And up to this point, I still can't reconcile that we're talking about a world record not being ratified because one of 4 athletes who ran in a world record team, the drug testers decided, oh, we tested you yesterday, we're not testing you now. Please go away.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that point because that's where they need to start. That internal directive that he spoke about on the show yesterday among JADCO or within JADCO, where you don't test an athlete who has been tested within that 24-hour period, that song that they sing within JADCO needs to be erased completely. Like, everybody needs to understand that it can't continue because there are exceptions for the situation. Now, for me, I mean, even studying at primary school, you know that there are rules and then there are always exceptions. But clearly, in this situation, those that are administering the test didn't get the memo for the exception. So for me, I would just erase everything and say test the athletes once it involves, you know, a world record. Take away the fact that the 24-hour and whatnot.
The fact is, whether or not it's a practice within JADCO, they were very clear guidelines stipulated for this particular meet. So even if you have a general practice, it's thrown out the window if you are given a clear directive that this at this event, it has to be treated in this way.
Yeah.
And that is why it is inexcusable for me.
Doc, we are making a reconnection with the noted medical practitioner, Dr. Paul Wright. Doc, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm back with us.
The connection. The connection is
where the phone call became garbled.
Yeah,
not what stage.
The connection is as good as Son Heung-min and Harry Kane up front for Spurs, so we can crack on. Here we go. Right, so you were answering my question about accountability, and I put it directly to you that were you Alexander Williams if you would ask your executive director for her resignation over this issue?
Yes, the person who is in charge on the day obviously does not understand dope testing. Let us go back over some of the facts that have come forward so far. You are given a contract to do dope testing as a championship, a 3-day championships, and you are told to do 18 tests. Now, if you understand track and field, you know that those tests are going to include winners. They're going to include world records or records, national records that may be done at the time, and also going to include unusual performances in that you have that person who is doing the drug testing, the person in charge, must have an idea of some of the performances of the people who are going to be involved in a meet. So if somebody is running 11 seconds, wherever they are, and come to the meet and run 9.9, then that person needs to be drug tested, just to make sure that the world understands that that improvement was because of a change in training technique, a change in diet, a change in equipment or something, and not something untoward. So you can't come with 18 tests. Also, you have some budget for your own. You can decide to do other tests all the tests are expensive, other than the 18 that you're mandated to do. You're JADCO. You're the anti-doping company of Jamaica, and you have Jamaica's reputation at stake. So you can't say that, on the third day, I only had 2 more tests done, therefore I didn't do it. That is arrant foolishness, and that person doesn't understand drug testing, and that person has got to find another occupation.
Doc, I am alarmed by the explanation from Alexander Williams that JADCO's internal practice of the policy, and the policy is something that is set down. It is more than custom. It is set down somewhere that this is how we operate. We don't test an athlete twice in 24 hours. So twice at the same meet. So if we tested you yesterday, no matter what you did today, we're not going to test you again because we tested you today. I find that alarming, Doc, because World Athletics' rules where a world record is concerned could not be clearer. And I'm wondering, how could JADCO's policy exist so far behind daylight? Daylight being what World Athletics has set down on paper as to what should be the procedures where doping control is concerned for persons or an individual who set a world record. Help me with that.
There are only 2 reasons, George. One is idiocy and 2 is economic. Obviously, and I'm hoping that it is economic, that he just didn't have enough money to spread about and do drug testing as he should, as Jamaica anti-doping. And I remember when the last board was discharged, the Minister of Sports said that this would not be a problem in the future, that the most funds will be there to do anti-doping. And I kept saying, when I was there and since I've left, unrecognized dope testing out of competition, dope testing must take place, because this is the only way you can guarantee that the people who are involved in whatever sport it is are not using performance enhancers or performance methods. Let me tell you an example. Here's an athlete who gives his whereabouts from 6 a.m., 6 a.m., 6 a.m., 6 a.m., 6 a.m. Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Friday. That must ring a bell somewhere. So you turn up at 6 a.m. Friday morning, and he's going to be surprised. This is not on the whereabouts form, but you are there. Your drug testimony is positive, because he needed that extra 12 hours to get that system, that dope out of his system before the drug test arrived. So it is those sort of unannounced tests that you have to do in order to maintain the integrity of the system. You can have a Jamaica anti-doping policy where you don't do that. You don't understand drug testing, you don't understand doping, and you are putting Jamaica's reputation on the line, and you need to find another way of earning a living.
Yeah, the issue of common sense. And I don't like to leave things down to common sense, Doc, because I want them to be written down and for the rules to be followed. I don't like to leave things down to discretion, because discretion is discretionary. It can be extended, it cannot be extended. Alexander Williams was at pains to say that he's most disappointed that at the doping control, the interface between the doping control officer and the athletes, that common sense wasn't applied. If we're depending on common sense, Doc, aren't we going to have more of these situations in the future?
And that is what the problem is, George. That is why, as you said in your opening remarks, how can we make sure this does not happen again? The only way to make sure this does not happen again is that the person in charge of dope testing must understand sports, must understand the performance of people who are involved in sports, and must understand his role as the gatekeeper of Jamaica's reputation in the world, and to do the thing properly. If he does not understand that, he's in the wrong job.
Definitely, Doc. And another thing that was very alarming to me is the fact that they are only allowed 6 tests per day. And you spoke about the economics, and instantly I thought about that, because that's what they said. So obviously something needs to be done in that field as well.
That must be foolishness, my lady. It's nonsense. You are a drug testing at an international meet, and 6 world records are run, or 6 records are run, and you already done your 4 tests. Because you're doing 4 gold medals earlier in the day, so you can't do the world record. What kind of nonsense is that? You don't sign a contract like that. You sign a contract and say, yes, I have money from you to do 18 tests, but I must be able to judge and to say that, look, it's a world record is there from a relay team or somebody out of competition that just did something fantastic. I must be able to do that, even though my contract says 18 tests. You have to be aware of what is happening in sports. You have to be aware of how the world looks at Jamaica in sports. We have 2 million people who are far outstripping the rest of the world in our athletes perform. And there are very few people in the world who say that it is Yaman. They don't believe that. And therefore we have got to make sure that whenever these things occur, we can prove to the world that our athletes are clean. And the only way to do that is to have JADCO do the job correctly and to understand dope testing and the reputation that Jamaica has in the world.
Can JADCO bounce back from this? And does the Jamaica sport-loving public, have they lost all confidence in JADCO now?
I wouldn't say in JADCO, because what I don't want to do is to throw the people who are doing the testing under the bus, because I'm sure that those people were trained and are doing the test exactly how it was supposed to be done. The person who told them that the 4 athletes, the J3 statement said the 4 athletes went to do testing, and only 3 were tested. The person who made that decision, it can't be a dope test, can't be in charge of anything, can't be in charge of collecting money on a bus, because I'm going to do foolishness as well.
Yeah. Doc, just as we wrap, the point is this. If it is that we are to change the rules and align the rules with what exists, what the rule book says as published by World Athletics, where does Alexander Williams start? What does he do? Does he commission a complete overhaul of JADCO's best practices, see whether they align or misalign with World Athletics' best practices, and then make the changes there? Does he go about it another way? What would you suggest as a consultant?
As a consultant, we need to get experienced people. You can't take people who are versed in case law to be in charge of JADCO, or versed in surgery to be in charge of JADCO. The person in charge there must be aware of all the activities that are going on in sports, have to be aware of his position as the gatekeeper of Jamaica's reputation, and if somebody or some group of people, and I'm talking about the board now, okay the policy whereby you don't test an athlete 2 days in succession at the international meet, the whole person, any signature to that person is not a relevant person to our reputation and must be removed.
Hear you on that. Your words resound. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Doc. I'll see you at the track on Saturday and Sunday.
I will be there. You can imagine the 1,000 guineas and 2,000.
All right then. Good.
All the best.
Good. Doc, Lance, we didn't hear from you in that segment, but it seems as if we heard from Corey Benitez today. Everybody was anticipating a world record and what to do in the event of a world record. except the people who gave the doping control officers the instructions at JADCO.
Yeah, and listening to Dr. Paul Wright, what became very obvious to me is that this is a role that is best suited to someone who knows sport, knows and understands sport, because he just mentioned situations where an outstanding performance was run. In other words, if an athlete's personal best is 10.3 and they run 9.9, then that is an alarming thing that needs to be addressed. And I'm just thinking that I'm not sure if some of the people involved in JADCO follow and know the sport to that level. We know Dr. Paul Wright is an avid sports fan, and he knows sport beyond just the medical side. So he was a former JADCO person. He left unceremoniously.
Yes.
There was a contentious departure from JADCO for Dr. Paul Wright. And listening to him, you just think that if he was doing that job on Saturday, that could not have happened.
No, we wouldn't be here talking.
Yeah,
I can guarantee you that.
Yes,
we wouldn't be
sure.
here talking about it. Right.
All right, team. Well, next on the SportsMax Zone, we preview Game 1 of the NBA Finals between Golden State Warriors and Boston Celtics. Our NBA analyst, Alistair Albert, says Golden State will win in 6. He'll help us break down Game 1 shortly. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.